That is the situation right now. FIFA and CAS are said to have entered the most decisive stage, and the latest information that has emerged in the past few minutes has once again put the Argentina national team's complaint regarding the World Cup final under major scrutiny. This information has been updated and is being described as the latest development regarding the decision that FIFA and CAS will make. The question being asked now is no longer simply whether Argentina's complaint will be processed, but something much bigger than that. What will actually happen to Argentina? What will happen to Spain? Will the result of the World Cup final remain unchanged? And most importantly, who will ultimately be considered the rightful owner of the World Cup trophy? FIFA and CAS are now at a very important stage, as they must determine the final steps in the entire process that has taken place. All attention is focused on the solution they will eventually provide. They must determine what will happen to Argentina, what will happen to Spain, and what the status of the World Cup will be once this entire matter is resolved. This is no longer simply a matter of comments, media debates, or opinions from fans. The case is said to have entered an official process that requires the examination of documents, evidence, and a decision based on the results of evaluations carried out by the relevant parties. As we already know, Argentina is said to have submitted all the documents required for their complaint. All of the materials that Argentina considered important have been submitted, and their filing process has reportedly been declared complete. This means Argentina is no longer in a position where they need to continuously submit additional documents simply to complete their complaint. From Argentina's side, everything is said to be in place. The evidence, documents, and arguments forming the basis of their complaint have all been included in the ongoing process. And now, attention is shifting to other parties who may be connected to the case. It is very possible that FIFA will request certain documents, explanations, or evidence from UEFA to determine whether the entire match process was conducted in accordance with the applicable rules. If there are allegations involving match manipulation, refereeing procedures, VAR decisions, or other issues that form the basis of Argentina's complaint, then all of these matters will naturally need to be seriously examined before the final decision is announced. This is what makes the situation even more interesting. Argentina is said to have completed its part of the process. Now the question is how FIFA and CAS will assess all of the evidence and what solution they will ultimately determine once the evaluation process is complete. Because in the end, this decision is not just about a single match. It could potentially affect something much bigger: the status of the World Cup final and the fate of the trophy that represents the highest symbol in world soccer. Now imagine if the final decision truly brings about a major change. What will happen to Argentina? What will happen to Spain? Will the match result still be considered valid? Or will there be certain consequences for the outcome of the final? And if serious violations are indeed proven during the investigation process, what kind of solution will be given to Argentina? All of these questions are becoming increasingly important because they involve one of the biggest and most historic matches in the world of soccer. That is why the latest statements from FIFA and CAS are so important. The continuously updated information is said to indicate that the process leading toward a final decision is getting closer. The necessary documents are being prepared, the evaluation results are being compiled, and whatever solution is eventually announced must have a clear basis. They cannot simply issue a decision without explaining the reasons, evidence, and grounds behind that decision. We also have to remember that there were previously developments that were said to provide a breath of fresh air for Argentina. FIFA was reportedly said to have given a response that was considered supportive of Argentina's position in the complaint, while CAS was also said to have shown similar developments. There were even claims that Argentina's position in the complaint had a strong basis, and that there were serious issues that needed to be examined regarding what happened in the World Cup final. If all of these developments are indeed accurate and are ultimately proven through the official process, then the decision from FIFA and CAS will undoubtedly become one of the most highly anticipated decisions. Because when a soccer governing body like FIFA or a sports arbitration institution like CAS issues a final decision, the impact can be enormous. Not only for Argentina and Spain, but also for the history of that match and the world's perception of what actually happened in the World Cup final. However, there is one thing that must be understood. Even though many people are already waiting for the final announcement, that does not mean FIFA and CAS can simply issue a decision within a short period of time without completing the entire process. They must make sure that all documents have been reviewed, all evidence has been evaluated, and all parties involved have been given an opportunity to provide explanations. A decision of this magnitude requires a strong foundation so that it does not create new issues in the future. Therefore, the assumption that Argentina has already abandoned the case, or that FIFA and CAS have stopped the process, does not necessarily mean that this is what has happened. The case is said to remain under attention, and the evaluation process continues to be an important part of what must take place before the final decision is announced. In fact, the greater the potential impact of a decision, the greater the need to ensure that every procedure is carried out properly. They cannot suddenly appear and say that everything is over without providing a clear basis for their decision. The final decision must go through the proper process. If there were indeed mistakes, violations, or manipulation as alleged in Argentina's complaint, then everything would have to be proven first. And if the evidence is not sufficient, then the decision must also be based on the facts and the applicable rules. However, one thing that continues to keep this case in the spotlight is the possibility of a solution being provided to Argentina. The complaint is said to have a strong basis and is considered a valid complaint regarding the various issues being questioned in the World Cup final. That is why many people continue to wait and see what kind of solution will ultimately be provided. If there was indeed manipulation during the match, whether related to UEFA, refereeing decisions, the use of VAR, or other procedures that were considered improper, then all of these issues would become an important part of the evaluation. It is not enough to simply say that a mistake occurred. Everything must be examined based on the available evidence and documents. And it will be the results of that examination that ultimately determine the next step. This is where the case becomes even more extraordinary. Because if FIFA and CAS ultimately issue a decision that provides Argentina with a major solution, the impact would certainly be enormous for the world of soccer. Imagine how Argentina's fans would react, how Spain would respond, how the international media would report it, and, of course, how the history of that World Cup final would be remembered after the decision is announced. But before reaching that conclusion, we still have to wait for the official decision. We should not allow various rumors circulating to be treated as a final decision before there is an official announcement from the parties who actually have the authority to make that decision. Because a case this significant requires certainty, not merely speculation. And now I want to know what you think. If FIFA and CAS really have reached the final stage and a solution to Argentina's case is about to be announced, what kind of decision do you think they will make? Will the final result remain unchanged? Will Argentina receive compensation or some kind of solution? Or could we see a decision that is truly shocking and something no one ever expected? Write your opinion in the comments. In your view, who should be considered the rightful owner of the World Cup trophy if all of the allegations in Argentina's complaint are eventually proven? Argentina or Spain? What is clear is that this case remains something very interesting to keep watching. All eyes are now on FIFA and CAS as everyone waits for the documents, decision, and solution they will announce. If the entire process has indeed been completed and a final decision has truly been reached, then the announcement will undoubtedly be a major moment. Because in the end, this is not just about Argentina. It is not just about Spain. And it is not just about a single match. This concerns the World Cup final, a match that has become part of the history of world soccer. If something is ultimately proven to have actually happened behind the scenes of that match, then the final decision would certainly become one of the biggest developments ever to take place in the history of the competition. So for now, all we can do is wait. Wait for the official announcement. Wait for the decision documents. Wait to hear what FIFA and CAS have to say. And most importantly, wait to see whether the solution provided will truly change the situation in the way Argentina has been hoping for all along. Whatever the final outcome may be, one thing is already clear. This case has not lost public attention. In fact, the closer it gets to a final decision, the greater the public's curiosity about what will actually happen. So stay tuned for the latest developments. Because if the official decision is truly announced, we will find out whether Argentina receives the major solution they have been fighting for, what Spain's position will be after the decision, and what will ultimately happen to the World Cup trophy. See you in the next Argentina video, the World Champions.